The PS5 launches in just a few months from now, and excitement for the console is continuing to ramp up. There's plenty that Sony has shown and talked about that we're quite excited about, but at the same time, we're also hoping there are some things the PS5 won't do, thanks to worries based on either industry trends or Sony's own past practices. In this feature, we'll be talking about a few such things. Paid online. Paid online has, unfortunately, become an industry standard as far as consoles are concerned. Nintendo was the last holdout, but with the Nintendo Switch Online becoming a thing, the dream of going back to the days of free online gameplay on consoles seems more distant than ever. That's a real shame, because if there's one thing that every consumer can agree on with next-gen consoles, it's that online should not be paid. Whether you're already paying good money for an online game, but then have to pay subscription fees to PSN as well, that's a hard pill to swallow. Sure, Sony might argue that their dedicated storefront, online services, its feature set, and the free games PS Plus gives to its subscribers is worth the subscription fees, but one only needs to look at PC stores like Steam with its excellent feature set and thriving community, or the Epic Games Store with its barrage of excellent free games, to realize that you don't need to be a paid service to do all that. High price. What price a console will launch at is almost always the ultimate deciding factor for most people in whether or not they'll get it at launch, if at all. And there's been no shortage of consoles that have chosen to launch at unbelievably high prices. Sony themselves made that mistake with the PS3, but hopefully they won't do that with the PS5. We're not completely optimistic about that though. The PS5 is an impressive piece of machinery, and it's hard to imagine Sony selling it at a decent price when clearly it's so expensive to make for them. Sony's own comments that they're aiming to offer the best value with the price, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the lowest price, doesn't necessarily inspire confidence either. Controller innovations being ignored. To their credit, Sony has a habit of introducing some interesting controller innovations with new console generations. They may not be bonkers the way that Nintendo tends to be, but they do try new things every now and then. The PS3 brought the gyro controllers with the 6-axis, the PS4's DualShock 4 introduced the touchpad, and now the PS5 is bringing haptic feedback and adaptive triggers. Those two things in particular aren't exactly new, both have been around for a while and have been seen in plenty of controllers, but the PS5 is making them standard, which definitely is new, barring the Switch's haptics. And hopefully they will be properly utilized. Because in the case of both the PS3 and PS4, their controller innovations were talked up to hell and back before those console launches, but a few years into those generations it became clear that very few, if any, developers were willing to do anything with those new features. Hopefully that won't be the case with the DualSense's haptics and adaptive triggers. Ridiculously slow download speeds. The PS4 really struggles with download speeds. Games and patches can take interminably long times to download, regardless of what your internet connection is like. The exact same game usually downloads much more quickly on your PC or your Xbox than it does on your PS4. That's an issue that the PS5 needs to fix, not least because file and patch sizes are by no means small anymore, and being able to download them at a relatively fast pace has become very important. Massive file and patch sizes. Speaking of massive file and patch sizes, that's another thing we're hoping we'll see some improvements with the next generation of consoles in general, not just the PS5. We do understand why games have grown in size exponentially. They've become larger, more technically impressive, more ambitious, so it makes sense that their sizes will grow as well. And in all likeliness, as they become even larger and more impressive with next-gen technology, they will become even larger. We don't know if games that are smaller in size will be possible if we want to keep playing the same kinds of experiences, but we definitely hope developers find a way to make it happen. Standard 30 FPS. Resolution is something that this industry has been improving on a consistent basis with each new console, and with the Xbox One X, the PS4 Pro, 4K or almost 4K has become more common in games. It will hopefully become the standard with PS5 and Xbox Series X games, but something else we're hoping will become the new standard is higher frame rates. We've been stuck at 30 FPS on consoles for a long time now, but it's time to make the jump to 60. With the kind of power that the PS5 and Xbox Series X promise, 4K and 60 FPS becoming the standard is something that the industry at large should collectively strive for. Unresponsive UI. Sony has promised that unlike what Microsoft is doing with the Xbox Series X, the PS5 will completely overhaul the PS4's user interface and put its own unique and new spin on things. We're excited to see what that will be like and what features will go hand in hand with that, and we're also hoping that all of that won't come at the cost of speed or ease of use. Sony does have a great track record with user interfaces. The PS3's XMB was incredible, and the PS4's UI is, for the most part, great as well, so hopefully they will keep that trend going with the PS5. Neglected VR. One of the best and most interesting new innovations Sony has made this generation is virtual reality. As far as the console gaming space is concerned, they are VR's biggest supporters, unless you count Nintendo's Cardboard VR, which, well, why would you? They have invested in PSVR heavily, made some really great VR games, and supported third parties who want to do the same as well. And we really hope that they keep that going with the PS5. All signs point to the fact that they will. They've said that the PS5 will support PSVR, and hopefully that means there will be more incredible VR games coming from Sony first parties, such as Astrobot and Blood and Truth. Hitman 3 is also going to be playable in VR on the PS5, while leaks have suggested that Resident Evil Village will be as well. So things are looking good on the VR front for now. Here's hoping we will get to see a better and more powerful PSVR headset not long from now as well. Excessive fan noise. The one biggest complaint most, if not all, PS4 owners have, regardless of which model of the console they use, is that it makes way too much fan noise. Depending on which game you're playing, the PS4 can sound like a jet engine moments before takeoff. The PS5 desperately needs a better cooling solution, one that can work in the background and do its job silently. That will depend on the console's form factor more than anything else, but sadly we won't know how effective the PS5's design enables quiet and efficient fans until the console is out. Poor controller battery life. The DualShock 4 is an excellent controller. It's probably one of the best standard control gamepads on the market right now, but it does have some issues. One of those issues is its lackluster battery life. At its best, it'll give you 7 to 8 hours, but those are rather rare best case scenarios. Usually the DualShock 4 has a battery life of 4 to 5 hours on average, which is a number that needs to go up with the DualSense. That might be a bit complicated, given that the PS5 also needs to consume more power for its haptics and its adaptive triggers. Sure, Sony can simply chuck a battery with a ton of capacity in there, but they also need to make sure that the controller doesn't become too heavy as a result, among other things. Here's hoping Sony will manage to strike the balance nonetheless. Forgotten franchises. An excellent first-party portfolio has always been one of Sony's biggest strengths, and that's been doubly true with the PS4 generation. And while we're excited to see new IP, we're hoping that doesn't mean Sony will ignore some of their recent newer ones. With the PS2, for instance, we got the likes of Sly Cooper and Jak and Daxter, both of which faded into the background on the PS3. Then on the PS3, we got the likes of Resistance, Killzone, Motorstorm, Little Big Planet, and Infamous, all of which were largely or entirely missing from the PS4's library. We love the fact that Sony keeps making excellent new IP, but with the PS5, we hope that doesn't come at the cost of franchises introduced on the PS4 going away. Horizon isn't going to go away, of course, while the success of Ghost of Tsushima has almost definitely guaranteed a sequel for that as well. Just as an example though, with something like Days Gone, a sequel can do wonders for that property, so hopefully we'll get one on the PS5. And that wraps it up. If you like what we are doing, please consider subscribing to our channel, and don't forget to switch on the bell notification icon. That way you will never miss out on any of our videos.